Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to compare the Suzuki DR650 versus the big brother Suzuki V-Strom650. We're going to ask which is the best city commuter. I personally have commuted a lot on both of these bikes, and I'm just going to give you my opinion. These are very different bikes. One's a dual sports, one's more of a entry-level adventure bike, but they have a lot of similar uses. You might ask the question, why would you even use these bikes as a commuter in the first place? Well, personally, I believe that most of the roads that we travel on in the city, especially here in Sydney, aren't the best. There's a lot of potholes, there's a lot of roadworks. They're not smooth roads. They're not great roads. Why would you want a bike that you feel every bump in the road? And you just don't on these. These two bikes have very plus suspension, so that's why I like them. Also, if it's your only bike, and it's the only bike you're going to have, they have a lot of uses. They're very versatile machines. You know, obviously they can both go off-road for in different ways, but you can set both of them up for adventure riding. You can set them both up for trips. They can both have boxes, bags. They have a lot of similarities, even though technically they're quite different. Yeah. So first up, I've broken it down in many different categories, but we're going to talk about power. We're going to talk about handling and maneuverability, which includes the gearing. We're going to talk about which one's better lane filtering, overall comfort, safety, features, economy, and then we'll just get into generally how you feel on the bike. Okay, so first up, the power. The DR650's got roughly 43 horsepower, 47 Newton meters of torque. The big brother V-Strom has 66 horsepower, 62 Newton meters of torque. Now, quite honestly, when you're riding the bikes for a while, you do notice the extra horsepower and the extra torque. We're going to talk about the weight in the handling. The V-Strom is quite a bit heavier, but you don't notice that once you're going. You do notice it at slow speeds. Overtaking and general power in the city, I would say you're not going to notice the difference. The V-Strom is a bit smoother. It does have more power, but we're talking about city riding here. This is city commuter. I honestly don't believe you'll notice the difference. Where you will notice the difference is in the gearing. So it's how the power is put down. So you've got the 5-speed DR650. You have the 6-speed V-Strom. I honestly believe gearing, I enjoy riding the V-Strom a lot more. The change points are far more sensible in the V-Strom. I've said this on the DR. It's got a very tall first gear. I guess you could play with the sprockets to change that, but it just felt weird around town. I know other people like it, but I far prefer the V-Strom. So for me, the power, the V-Strom wins just because you can put the power down a bit more smoothly, and that's just my personal opinion. Next, we go to handling maneuverability. I think the DR actually wins hands down, and I'll tell you why. The V-Strom is actually quite a beast. It's actually quite wide. It's 835 mil wide. I think the DR is a little bit narrower, but I just find it's a lot harder to lane filter, and that's important as a city commuter. The DR never had a problem filtering through any type of traffic. It's a lot narrower. I guess when you have bags on, if I put crash bars and bags on the DR, it might have been different, but I'm talking about stripped down, no bags, no crash bars. The V-Strom still takes up a lot more real estate. So the DR wins as far as handling maneuverability. It's a lot lighter. It's 166 kilos compared to the V-Strom's 214 kilos. That's 48 kilos difference. It it does make a difference at low speeds and filtering through traffic. As for comfort, the next one, V-Strom wins hands down for me. It's just a very comfortable bike. We talk about wind, we talk about weather. I always feel comfortable on the V-Strom. There were points on the DR where you get onto a bit of open road and the wind hits you. It can feel a bit sketchy. It never really bothered me too much after a while, but I think the V-Strom wins as far as comfort. Safety, now this is a weird one. Like I said, I never felt bad on the DR. I felt that the brakes were adequate. I never felt any sketchiness as far as riding it around town and the brakes and whatnot. But I would give it to the V-Strom. It has dual front brakes with ABS. It's just a more technically powerful and better machine. It's a safer machine. So I think safety-wise, the V-Strom wins. It's a lot more noticeable, and it sort of goes into features as well. So the V-Strom's got the gear indicator. It's got you've got a fuel gauge, you've got a temperature gauge. I think it wins on features, obviously. Now, economy and range, they're roughly the same. You get more range out of the V-Strom simply because it's got a bigger tank, but they're roughly the same, right? There are slight differences in the specs, but honestly, after riding them both for long periods of time, to me, they run the same. They use about the same amount of fuel. I would pick the V-Strom. I'd probably pick the V-Strom because it's fuel injected, and I'm sure it gets better fuel economy. So I guess that's going to win. As for sitting in traffic, if you do get stuck in traffic, and you have to stop at lights, that's the thing. You can filter through as much traffic as you want. Sometimes you get stuck with trucks and buses and just people that don't care about bikes. You have to think about overheating if you live in a hot environment. I feel these bikes, although they're very different, the DR is air cooled, the V-Strom is liquid cooled. I never had an issue with the DR. It never cooked. I could literally idle around all day. It never cooked. The engine's not under stress, from what I understand. And you feel the heat on both of those bikes. If you're sitting in traffic, it's just like any other bike. You're going to feel the heat. So they're about even. I guess I'd feel more comfortable on very hot days sitting in traffic. I guess I'd give it to the V-Strom because it was liquid cooled. But to be honest, to me, they feel very even. So overall, if I had to pick one and you had to have one bike and it was an all-rounder, in conclusion, going through the gearing, the power delivery, the handling, comfort. As a city commuter, I think the DR650 wins. Even though I still have the V-Strom, I love it for other reasons, but as a city commuter, I think the DR650 wins simply because it can do more. It can lane filter. You can still put a top box on. It's just that bit more maneuverable and lighter. You don't need the extra power. You don't need all the extra features as a city commuter. And it's easier to park up and it doesn't take up as much space. So I really think that if I had to pick one bike, and I hate to say this, I would pick the DR650 over the V-Strom650. I hope you enjoyed this video and it helps you or gives you some clarity if you're picking between the two bikes. And if you disagree with me, please put it in the comments. Or if you agree with me, if you've had both of these bikes, let me know what you think. Thanks a lot and ride safe.